Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we're going to be discussing, as promised, a full recap of the last part of the Total Tell-All, Part 3. So, there was a lot that happened with this tell-all, and I didn't want to gyp you guys. So, I wanted to make sure that I was actually covering everything. So, here it is. So again, as discussed, and I believe you were getting the Family Chantel before this one. So as discussed, we're not going to be doing anything on top of the episode. No memes, no gauze, no announcements, nothing like that. But you can expect that on the first episode in the new year for the 90-day OG episode. We will be discussing all new things on that episode. So let's get into the episode. Season 5 episode, I don't even know either, but it's Tell-All Part 3. So we leave off where Holly is walking off, as we saw in Part 2, and Kenny goes after her, the amazing man that he is. And because that happens anyways, we're going to take a break now. And Kenny feels for her and says, you both need emotional support. But he isn't giving that to you. But here's the thing. I'm going to say this. And we kind of see Holly kind of say this in a little bit to Wayne. I don't think she's giving him emotional support either. I think when it comes to a marriage, you got to give it to each other. It's not just one having to bear the other's emotional needs. There are times, yes, where maybe you need to take the brunt of, not the brunt, that's the wrong word to use, but you gotta take the more strong, quote unquote, side and be that person's strength, maybe a little more than they can be yours. But I feel, let me say something about Holly. I think I'm trying to be cautious of what I say because I know she's dealing with ADHD. I understand that. And that can just alter how you think, how you speak, all of that. I get it. But I think the biggest issue with her isn't so much her ADHD, but she needs to constantly be coddled. She's coddled by her mother. She's probably coddled by friends if she has any. She's probably coddled by siblings if she has any. She's probably been expecting past husbands to coddle her. And now she's expecting Wayne to coddle her. But that's a lot when you're still your own person. You still have your own needs. And she's not, I bet, listening to his needs. That's how I feel. But not to say that, he wasn't being a dick in the moment. 100% he was being a dick in the moment. There's a time and there's a place to act like a dick and to not support your wife. Maybe in front of complete strangers isn't the time. I'm just saying. But anyways, so he says, maybe you need to take some, I think actually that's maybe what I said. You need to take some baggage off of him, ? But yeah, anyways, so then we kind of come away from Holly and Kenny for a second. And we're kind of gone back to who I'm now calling the Four Stooges and give their kind of opinion on the whole thing. I don't even remember what they said. I don't really care. I'm really and truly, I think I really truly think that 90 Day is trying to make fetch happen, and it's not going to happen. Stop with the random 90 Dayers coming in and giving their commentary. Stop with the audience that didn't contribute anything. Stop with the bullshit. Can we just have a normal tell-all? And that's it. We don't need... See, the thing is why I love like the single life tell-alls. Now that makes sense when you're bringing in the exes. Oh boy, I can't wait for the tell-all, because let me tell you, Pedro is going to be there and Pedro is going to go off. Anyways, besides that, like, that makes sense to me with the show that it is. But we don't need these crazy, these weirdo comments coming out. They didn't contribute shit. I mean, some of them did. Like, Kalani did. Tim, kind of gave more commentary because he's done that before with Kenny. And to an extent, Tanya did as well. Andre just created more trouble because he is who he is. We'll get to that. But it's just, they weren't needed. They really were not needed. So, Kenny says, I think he is weaker than he says. I think that's fair. I think it's 100% fair. Then, Kenny just hugs her. He just hugs her, gives her some support, and she says, "You smell good." He laughs, which I thought was funny, because I'm just like, girl, I bet he does smell really good. Anyways, Tim says, I think they love each other, but they're just not compatible. No shit. I don't think that's one thing I will say here. That was pretty astute observation. No, they're not compatible. Really and truly, half of these people who are on this stage are not compatible with each other. Naming one person who's compatible in this fucking season. One. I just want one. Because I can't think of anyone who's actually fucking compatible with each other. None of them are compatible. Anyways. So, then she calls Wayne. Instantly starts crying. Like, instantly. She's like, I don't know why you're crying. Then stop crying. Because I don't think Holly is smart enough, really. But to me, in the moment, it feels like, because how do you go from not crying to the minute he answers the phone, you start crying? I feel like you're trying to manipulate him into feeling bad for you, which is like kind of weird. I don't know if I can give her that credit, but like, it just felt very weird how 1 minute she's crying, or 1 minute she wasn't crying, and the next minute she just was like bawling. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it was really weird. Anyway, so she's like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm so emotional all the time. I'm a lot. I know I'm a lot. And he does say, it is a lot. But she tells him, I want to move back. I want to be with you. Do you want to be with me? And he says, well, we got a lot of things to work on, but you're my soulmate. Ugh. Anyways, we need to communicate more. And, yeah, like, maybe not ignoring her for 3 weeks is a good start. And that's the other thing that I'm going to say. Like, I'm pretty sure I said this before, but here's the thing I'm going to say. Is she a lot? Yeah, sure. I couldn't. But sir, she is your wife. You decided to marry her knowing she was a lot. You proposed to her and she ran away. You knew she's a lot. Okay? You knew this. Sorry. You went into this knowing she's a lot. So, you don't get to ignore your wife because she's a lot. That's what you signed up for. You signed up to deal with a lot. So don't backtrack now and act like you can't handle her. It's bullshit. So I will say that. Anyway. So after she hangs up the phone, producer says, like, are you serious? You really want to go back to South Africa? And she says, no, I really do. I really want to go back. No, she doesn't. Because hold on to that. Let's continue. So we're back on set, and Tim and Kenny come in holding hands, and he's like, Tim's my side bitch. I love them. I love them. I love their friendship. So we're kind of done with Holly and Wayne now. She says they're fine, and he says, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's all good. Great. We wish them all the best. Moving on. So let's go back to Sarper and Shekinah. Fuck's sakes. So we're like, yeah, her family couldn't be here, but there is at least one person who decides that he wants to be here, and that is her friend and her ex, Dan. And she's like, wait, what? He's not my ex. What the fuck? Listen, there was no surprise that, yes, they did date a few times, but I had to agree with her here. It's like, it's because we dated a few times doesn't mean you're my ex. It just means that we went on a couple of dates and it didn't work out. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, all of this felt fake. All of it felt fake. I felt like it was so fucking weird. Anyways, let's continue. I mean, I knew Dan was going to be here. I said it from the beginning. We'll see you at the tell-all, sir. But, like, it was just weird. Anyways, so, yeah, so they went on 3 to 4 dates. And Tim asks, like, did you fuck? And she says, no, they did not. But Dan says, well, that's not exactly 100% true, but okay. What? Okay. Because here's the thing. He first said, did you fuck? But the second thing technically wasn't him who said it. It was Andre. Andre says, did you guys have sexual contact? She says, no. He says that's not 100% true. So here's what I'm going to say. Maybe they didn't have sex. Maybe they didn't. But I 100% think something happened. Whether it was making out. Like, I think it was all over the clothes type situation for the most part. I don't think they did anything crazy. But something happened for sure. I believe Dan. I don't believe Shekinah. And here's why I don't believe Shekinah. Get rid of Sarper and see her for answer changes. She's not gonna say she did or she didn't in front of him because he seems to have a fucking problem that this woman has had a sex life before she was with him. Yet here's a fucking guy who, we'll get to it, has had sex with at least 2,500 women. We'll get to it. But it's okay for you to talk about your shit, but it's not okay for her to talk about her shit. Misogyny at its finest. Listen, ladies, get you a man who can talk about your sex life and his. Like, babe, you know what I mean? It's okay. We all have a past before you're with this person. She had a whole ass marriage, I believe. I think she was married to the father, and I can't remember. But she had a marriage. She had at least one kid, maybe 2. We don't really know. She had a life before him. And he wants to pretend like she didn't. That this woman in her 40s just miraculously came in front of your face, a virgin? Ew. He's, my God. Even Nicola handled shit better than this fucking guy. And he's a virgin. It's just, he drives me nuts. But that's why she didn't agree with what was being said, because of Sarper. I hate him. I don't hate him. He's funny to watch, but I hate their relationship, and I hate that she's trying to make it seem like it's perfect. It's not perfect. You're in a toxic, abusive relationship. Well, anyways, so yeah, he says that. And, Dan thinks that he is a better match for Shekinah than Sarper. That's not surprising. He's been saying that before she left to go to Turkey. And then he holds up this sign. This is for me when it started to feel even weird. Because I'm like, you prepared this fucking sign? You fucking weirdo. Like, listen, I'm not saying she should be with Dan, but I'm not saying she should, let me rephrase. I'm not saying she should be with Sarper over Dan, but I don't think she needs to be with Dan either. She's with someone completely different. Like, both these guys are fucking weird for their own reasons. But yeah, he holds up this sign, and the sign basically says, "Give Dan the man a chance." What the fuck, yo? What the fuck? I'm like, are you okay? Give Dan the man. Oh my god. And no. And there's your 15 minutes, sir. Sizzling down. Just down, just gone. Poof. What the fuck? Anyways. Sarper feels uneasy about Dan being here. Well, that's okay. Because guess what? That's how she feels about your collection, sir. We'll get to it. I don't give a shit that you feel uneasy. Feel uneasy. I like a man that feels a little uncomfortable. Gives me joy. Anyways. So, he feels something in his stomach, he says. And then she says, I do too. I feel something in my stomach too, that she just feels, and I can understand her, maybe, whatever. And then Dan, this is again where it felt very weird for me, says, because of me? And he's like, are you fucking serious? I had to agree. Are you okay, sir? She's not with you. This is why. This is why she's not with you. You're too much. You're laying it on fucking thick. You're a good looking guy, but you're laying it on too damn thick. Good looking guy, to me, sorry, when I say men like this who are clingy like this, it makes me think of, what does it make me think of? Y'all know that movie with Jennifer Lopez where she sleeps with a younger guy and he turns out to be her student? I can't remember the name of the movie. Gives me those vibes. He is going to try to kill you and your family, but ultimately kills your best friend. Anyways, he's weird. The moral of the story, he's weird. So Dan does say, I do think Sarper is controlling. No shit. Thank you. We've established that. And that he doesn't see like all of her good things. Like he doesn't see her for who she is, basically. I guess that's what he's trying to say. But Sarper says, I do, brother. I know her better than you do. Now that's true. That's fair. He probably does know her better than Dan does. But I still don't even know if he knows her. I feel like these two people are together because the sex is good. And that's okay. That's fine. It's okay for the sex to be good and that to be, a motivator to some extent. But at some point it needs to be more than that. To me, there needs to be more than that. Life is too goddamn short for it to be just about the sex. Dan then says he is just trying to create a Barbie. And then Sarper says the fucking ultimate uncomfortable comment of the night. This was for me, and I'll explain why. Sarper says, she is my Barbie, and I am her Ken. Okay, Gather round, children. I'm going to tell you a story from a Canadian. You might know where I'm headed. You might not. But let's gather around and let's tell a little story of how fucking wrong this comment was. Once upon a time, there was a man. His name was Paul Bernardo. Okay. He started off his reign of terror as what we call the Scarborough Rapist. Now, for those who've listened to the story and know the story, you might hear Americans say Scarborough. It's Scarborough. Scarborough Rapist. That's how he started off, okay? Then he met this woman who was going to be the love of his life? Question mark. Her name was Carla Homolka. Carla and Paul live a great life and they get married. But before that happened, they killed her sister. And then they moved to a place called St. Catherine's, right by Niagara, and kidnap 2 other young girls and kill them. They were dubbed the Ken and Barbie Killers because they really did look like Ken and Barbie. Now, Carla doesn't look like a Barbie anymore. No, she doesn't. Anyway, what does Paul look like? I don't know, nor do I care. He's still in prison, where he belongs, where he hopefully will stay. Because our system sucks. He's been able to be paroled for some time now. Anyway, none of that. So when Sarper used the term Ken and Barbie in this way, it just made me feel really weird. Because it didn't give me now I haven't seen the Barbie movie yet. It is a plan of mine to do. But it didn't give me the warm, fuzzy feeling of the Barbie movie. It gave me that, oh God, feeling of Paul Bernardo, Carla Homolka. So, can I just say, please don't do it like this. Don't phrase it this way, because it just instantly made me think, oh God. That's what it made me think of. Ugh. No. I mean, it's fucking clear he's trying to be plastic. He looks plastic. God. Anyway, Shekinah says that she loves to serve him. Okay. My boyfriend can attest. Obviously, I love to do things for my boyfriend. I will, gladly take care of him if that's what he needs. But you're a grown-ass fucking man, okay? I don't need to serve you or cater to you all the fucking time. Once in a while, maybe I want to be catered to, you know what I mean? Or I would like you to just pick up after yourself and take care of your fucking self. Especially if you have kids. I know these two don't, and obviously will never have kids, according to her. But no, nothing gives me hives more than to act like a fucking servant to my man. And no. And then Kalani asked, how would you feel if your daughter was in a relationship like this? This made me utterly upset, made me angry. She says, I'm happy, so I'm not being controlled. So I'm okay with her being in a relationship like this. This is my healthiest relationship. They keep saying that. And I'm just like, no, you are being controlled. You are in a controlling relationship. And here's my thing. It is a toxic relationship if you can't see that. If you're still thinking it is okay for your daughter to be in a relationship like this, I'm sorry. And I'm going to get to my theories. I'm not sure if I did in part 2, But I'm going to say it here in a minute. But I'm sorry. If you cannot see the issue, you, ma'am, should not be a parent. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm sorry. You should not be a parent. There's clearly something mentally going on with you. And you need to figure that out before you start giving advice or parenting your child. Now, I'm hoping she'll have some sort of foundation, because you can best believe her father will never allow something like that. Thank God. I think he seems to be pretty right in his head for the most part, and would not really take that shit if some man is controlling his child like that. But what I am going to say is, I think her daughter is smart enough that she can see what's going on wrong here, and that her mother is in a similar type of relationship that she's probably been in before. She's just too fucking blind to see it. But here's what I'm also going to say. And I think I did say this, but I'm going to say it again. I feel like Shekinah needs to be in an environment or in a relationship that is controlling. Let's not forget, she was raised in a controlling environment already. She was born to the Amish. I don't know if she was born to the Amish or her parents went Amish after she was born. I'm not sure. But she was primarily raised in the Amish community. Now, I'm not trying to shit on the Amish community. I'm sure there were some pros and there were some cons, whatever. That's the case in any situation. But it is a controlling environment. You have to dress a certain way. You have to act a certain way. You have to do things a certain way, especially as a woman. And if you don't do things that way, you get excommunicated, or you get, shunned, or whatever the case may be. It is a controlling environment, at least for women, more so than the men. So I think that's what she's used to. It's funny because she said she wanted to break out of that because she wanted to be able to be free to dress how she wanted to dress, wear makeup and all that. It's interesting that she wanted to break out of that. And she kind of, quote unquote, forced her parents to break out of it. But she then, in turn, ends up in these types of relationships where she is being controlled. Why would you want that? I don't understand why any woman, especially a woman who's been raised in this type of environment, or let's say even a woman who's been in a cult or anything like that, why would you then want to be controlled? But at the same time, I get it, because what else does she know? She doesn't know anything else. This is what she knows. And unless she's done the work to fix her I don't want to say mental health necessarily, that I think she clearly, I don't know, I'm going to say mental health, to keep her mental health in the right place it needs to be in. Things are never really going to change. So, and honestly, she is in denial. She thinks everything is peachy keen, and it's not. Holly says, but they are happy. How is it toxic? Shut up, Holly. Sarper says, we have so much passion, and that's code for we have a lot of sex. I don't care. Sex is not the end all be all here. Oh my God, if he wants to have sex and maybe she really doesn't, that she can't say no to him. This is so disgusting. This is toxic. But that for a fact. Anyway. Dan says, well, I think she is blinded by the physical aspects. Yes, say it louder for the people in the back. And she's like, that's not true. Yes, it's true. Own it. Fuck sakes. Anyway. So, Tanya asks, how does 2,500 women happen? And this is where shit gets a little interesting. Tim's like, it doesn't. Oh, but it does. So, Matt Sharp Productions did some calculations, and he said, pretty sure I got this right. It would have to be 3.5 new women every day or some shit. So it's like, is that possible? He's like, I'm not proud of that. And I was like, yes, you are. And we're going to find out how proud you are of it. You're very fucking proud of it, sir. Let's move on. But anyways, so then we kind of start asking other people, do they have a high number? And Andre's like, well, compared to him, I'm a virgin. Brandon's had sex with 6 people again. He's like 24. Like, duh. Actually, when I was 24, I had sex with more people. Anyways, moving on. But yeah, it's like, we're kind of doing like, what's your number? What's your number? What's your number? It's kind of what we're going to. And then they start asking like, Shekinah, what's your number? And she says, he doesn't want to know. What do you mean? Listen, and not the first question that's asked, but I have never been in a relationship with a man, obviously, because I'm straight, but I've not been in a relationship with anyone who has not asked me what my body count is. Again, not the first question, but it does come up. I can't, just thinking about, obviously, the last 10 years I've been in committed relationships for the most part, let's say last 10 or so years. So those two, my ex and my current, have asked me what my body count is. And I knew what my ex's was at the time. I don't know what my man's is now. So it's just like, I don't understand, how, but he doesn't want to know because it would ruin the perfect image that he has of her. That this was a woman who got plopped down to him, I guess, from the heavens, just ready for him, I guess. I don't fucking know. He doesn't want to know. And I find that so disgusting. He is really and truly, he is disgusting. I don't understand how anyone would want to be with a man like him. And I'm not talking just about his body count. That's bad, but I'm not just talking about that. I'm just talking about how he goes about life. He's disgusting. He's no fucking prize. At all. The man can't do a striptease to save his life. Fuck's sakes, he's disgusting. Anyways, so yeah, he says he doesn't want to know her number. He's like, don't tell her, don't tell him. Whatever you do, don't say it. Never say it. He's so ill. What's wrong with you? But she's like, I think you'd be surprised that how low the number is. I would not be surprised either. I think she's probably dated a bit, but I don't know if necessarily she's had sex with every single person she's actually been on a date with. I think I don't know how many relationships she's been in. She's never said, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's her number. However many number of relationships she's been in, I think that's her number. And I think he thinks her number is in the thousands, I guess, because his is. And it's no, sir, you're a fucking anomaly. You have done the impossible. That's what you've done. Even my boyfriend, I said to him, there's this guy on any day who's had sex with 2,500 women. He's like, that's fucking insane. You know what I mean? You've done something that most men think about, but wouldn't even dream to actually do. There are men out there who've had sex with hundreds for sure. My God, dude, you're up there. Anyways. So, he even says, even if it's 2, he just wouldn't be happy about it. Fuck this guy. Anyway, then we find out that he has a bottle collection. A bottle collection. Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? Well, until you find out that the bottle collection is actually because it has a memory with a woman that he's been involved with. So my guy is he has fucking trophies of his conquests. This gets worse. Let's continue. So, she has a really huge problem with the bottle collection. She doesn't like it. Danielle asks, like, how did you count the 2,500? Like, how do you keep track of that? He then says, well, I'm a numbers freak. No shit. Again, putting it out there. For those who listen to Reality Gaze who don't, you're missing out. But they have made jokes on the fact that he counts everything. We realized, sir, that you were a numbers freak when you said you were counting her orgasms. And you counted like 12 or some shit. I can't remember what the number was. But like, I'm like, wait, you counted her orgasms? Who counts their partner's orgasm while they're having sex? That's weird. Like to that extent. Now, here's what I'll say. This is maybe going into a little TMI, but I remember my ex doing that with me the first time we had sex. Obviously, long time ago. He did that with me. He was counting. But eventually, once he hit like, I don't know, 5 or some shit, we stopped counting. Because like I lost track. You know what I mean? But like, that I can kind of understand. But the fact that you continued counting and you counted that number, it's like, first of all, A, how do you know? I don't want to know how you know. But anyways, number 2, how are you even in the right mind frame to, for me, my mind is gone. Like, I don't get it. It's so weird. It's so weird. He's such a weirdo. But I'm like, no shit, sir. We knew this. And he did, maybe I'm a little OCD with my counting. Again, yeah, I think you are. But then he says, how I was counting. Well, you know what? I was hiding something from you. And you're like, what'd you do? Did you see somebody else? Is it now 2,503? Like, what's happening? Well, guys, here's what happened. He says from 1998 to 2012, he recorded his body count in a book. He says, if I told you, you would have wanted me to destroy the book. Well, why wouldn't you just want to destroy the book? We'll get to it. He shows us the book and has all these X's in the book. It's fucking creepy as fuck. And then someone notices he has like colors associated with the X's, and they ask about that, and he says, well, the colors was to indicate how pretty they were. What the fuck? This guy is fucking diabolical. I'm sorry. Let me continue. Let me finish getting through this, and then I'll let my thoughts out there. So, he counted 1,459 women as of 2012. And that was 9 years before he met Shekinah. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Number 1, y'all asked the wrong questions. Why did you stop in 2012? What happened? What happened in 2012 that made you stop counting in the book? Because clearly you're still counting. He was still counting. But like, what made you stop counting in 2012 in the book? Did you run out of a notebook? Did you need to buy another notebook? You just didn't. Like, it's weird. There's that. Number 2, this guy there's something wrong with him. I think if he was wired slightly differently, he would have been a serial killer. He has a fucking notebook with X's in them of his conquests. He has trophies, which are bottles that he collects with women. If he was a serial killer, he might have been recording names of his victims in the book. You know what I mean? That's a feeling I get with him. And it's weird, but as far as we know, he's not a serial killer. And he, oh my God, it's so fucked up. There are notches in like, instead of the notches on the headboard because his headboard was fucked up, he was notches in the book instead. It's fucking disgusting. He's disgusting. And the fact that you wanted to keep that also just shows your psychopathy. Why not destroy that? Listen. Now, my man's number is nowhere near, it's not even near 50. But even if it wasn't that high a Sarper, and he had a notebook with like notches in it, I would fucking lose my mind. Because here's the thing too that makes it even grosser. Shekinah, you realize even though you weren't recorded in a book, you are a notch on his headboard. You're no different than everyone else. At least initially, you were no different than anyone else. And that should be a realization. Even, I can't remember if it was this episode or another episode, or the previous episode, but we see her realizing, when I came over to take care of you because you were quote unquote sick, you had 2 other women here. How does that not make you want to just go inside of yourself? I don't understand. I don't get her. I don't get it. It's not the fact that he has the number, because that's bad enough, but it's not the fact that he has the number, it's how he treats women and how he treats her. This man has never been in a relationship, according to him. But he needs to learn how a relationship goes. And she's just letting him do what he wants to do, and you could mold him into what you want, because he's never done this before. And you're just letting it happen. Anyway. It's ridiculous. I think she feels like she won something because he's never been in a relationship before. And I said, honey, you haven't won shit. He's no prize. So anyway, he doesn't see this as disrespectful, but it is, because she says it is. She says, for women to be an ex in your book, it's disgusting, it's disrespectful. Agreed. She says, get rid of the bottles and get rid of the book. And, I'm not coming back until you do. She'll go back before he does. Anyways. But that's it. That's it for them. Bye, Dan. Thanks for nothing. Bye. He's gone. So anyway, then we talk about kids and kind of where they're at with the kids conversation. And she says, I still don't want kids. I don't want them, and that's all right. But he is always ready, he says. And she's like, we talked about this. Why are we talking about this again? You should not be ready because there's nothing to be ready for. He's like, okay. He's like, is there any chance of that changing? No. Okay. It's fine. It's whatever she wants. But they decide they're going to adopt a goat or something. Who knows? But yeah, that's basically it for them. Let's talk about Brandan and Mary. So their child, Midnight, such a that fucking name. This is why children shouldn't name children. Anyways, let's continue. The baby is 1 month old. Mary had a very bad labor. It wasn't great. She says that the baby had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck 3 times. She also had previa, which she describes as, facts. This is facts. Her placenta was low, lower than it should be. So there's that. She thought she was going to die. But she's recovering. All's good. She does say that, the baby, kind of looks like Brandan. And she also farts like Brandan. Great. He apparently still plays his video games, but not as much. He admits that I can get, lost in it, lose time, and, he also admits that he will get mad playing his video games, which is, not unusual. I've definitely heard this before. But because he gets mad at the game, he will then sometimes get mad at Mary if she were to talk to him or interrupt him or something like that. And it's not so much that he's mad at her, but he's mad at the game, but he is putting the anger out on her. And then he says, sometimes he might call her a scammer and that she's only happy when she has money. And then he says that he will sometimes call her a bitch. Sir, if that were me and you called me a bitch because you're mad at your fucking video games, I'm taking your video game console and smashing it. Problem solved. I'm so happy my man is not a gamer. He loves sports. I can live with that. But, Lord. So they ask her, what do you do when he calls you these names? And she says, I just cry. And Andre, not this was in the comments, but Andre's like, that's good. What's good that she's crying? I guess he was trying to say, it's good you don't engage because it could just make things worse. But I don't know if that's what he meant. But it's good that you're crying. It's good. The fuck? He says, I don't mean it. But sometimes, he will say it to kind of make her mad because he wants her to fight back. What the fuck? Listen, this triggers. I triggered. But I've had that happen to me. But in the beginning of a relationship, my current boyfriend did that to me in the beginning of a relationship. My ex did the same thing in the beginning of our relationship. God wanted to make me mad on purpose to kind of see how I would react. See what they're getting themselves into, kind of thing. I didn't like it because for me, I'm feeling it. I'm mad at you. But then you tell me that, it's not nice. It's not a nice feeling. But for someone to do that in the middle of the relationship because you want to start a fight, you're pessimistic. At the very least, you're pessimistic. Now, Kalani says that's kind of narcissistic there, babe. Now, I don't know if I go as far as saying narcissistic, because I don't think it is. I don't think it's narcissistic by any means, but it's definitely pessimistic. What's wrong with you? Why do you need to do that? And it's also toxic. Straight up, it's just toxic. Why would you want to create a fight for no fucking reason with your partner? Why wouldn't you want to live in a peaceful, as much as you can, environment, especially now that you have a daughter? Why would you want to do that? It's fucking psycho. Anyways, then Shekinah says, so, to Sarper, bitch is her favorite word. Which is your favorite word? Yeah, whore, slut, bitch. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Angela's here, Brandon's mom. And Angela says, well, if the money was there, because they do ask, why would he call her that? Because a scammer and that. She says, when the money was there, she was good. If it wasn't, she would be upset. She would block him, say the relationship was over. That's interesting, Mary. Why would you do that? He apparently right now is asking his mom for money behind Mary's back because they're struggling, obviously. They've been struggling before the baby got there. So he will ask. But they're saying, well, when the business is back up and running, we're gonna be fine. And he doesn't think he'll be asking his mom for money going forward. Yes, you will. And Andre says it. He's like, yes, you will. He's like, babies are expensive. So you will be asking her. And guess what? Babies grow to toddlers to just full-blown children. Children to a teenager to adult. Yeah, you will need money. Okay? Children are expensive. So they kind of start talking about like how they are dealing with the expenses of this child. Brandon says, they got stuff. They have like wipes, diapers, all of that. Guess what? Babies poop all the time. And that shit's gonna run out. They start talking about like this incident that happened between Mary and Brandon, and Angela was somewhat involved in that. And here's basically what happened. So, Angela says that she got a text from Mary about being afraid to tell him to turn the volume down, whether he was watching a movie or playing a game, I'm not sure, but she was afraid to tell him. Can I dissect this right off the bat? If you're afraid to talk to your partner to do something as simple as turning the volume down, there's something seriously wrong. Something seriously wrong. You shouldn't be afraid to talk to your partner. He should be your safe place. He should be the person who you should not be afraid of. And he's going to protect you, make you feel safe. Anyway, so she said she was afraid to tell him that. And I guess she ends up telling him. And she's like, oh, he got mad. And he's outside. Angela then texts Brandon and says, like, what's going on? Like, why are you acting like a dick? And he's like, I'm not mad. But Mary says that he did seem mad because he slammed the controller down. So here's what I'm going to say. Because Angela says, like, I don't think maybe he wasn't mad. And Mary's just like saying he was because she doesn't know him or, doesn't know his mannerisms that well because they're still very new being together physically. And here's what I'm going to say, Angela. He was mad. He was 100% mad at her. And I do believe he threw that controller down because he was mad at being told to turn it down. 100%. 110%. That is exactly what happened. And I also think that he told Angela, I'm not mad, so that he didn't have to A, be lectured, and B, talk about it. That's why he was 100% mad. I believe Mary in this moment. I believe her. He was mad. So that's what I think. But and then she kind of says, like, I think she's just defending her son. I don't think she quite understands what's going on. And then she kind of goes on to say, he's yelling at me while I'm holding my baby. That's not okay. That's fucked up. This is how these two should have never had a child. We'll talk about that in a minute too. But then Angela kind of says, that's not okay. They shouldn't be doing that. And she starts talking about them doing individual therapy again. And here's what I'm going to say. Like, I don't know if it's just not readily available to them. Also, they need to pay for it. They don't have fucking money to pay for it. As far as I'm concerned, $1,000 per episode that they get, it's going to have to go towards their expenses. It's going to have to go towards their child. I can't imagine them then taking that money and going to therapy. This is the problem. If you want them, and I 100% agree, they do need to go to therapy. But if you're so adamant, Angela, of them going to therapy, individual therapy, you pay for it. You pay for them to go to individual therapy. It's not cheap. It's unfortunate because I feel like so many people need it. We all need it. Let's be real. But it's so hard because it's so expensive. It's just, I don't know how they pay for that. I really don't. So Mary kind of starts talking about kind of maybe why she didn't do it. And I think this is very true. I think as either Canadians or Americans, take for granted that mental health, we are definitely shining a light on mental health and are trying to normalize therapy as being something that is okay to do. And I think that's amazing. That's what we need. But there are countries that are not doing that. There are countries who view therapy very differently than we do. And she explains that in the Philippines, if you go to therapy, people think you're crazy. They don't think you're going to therapy just because you need to regulate your emotions or get, tips and tricks on how to regulate your emotions and regulate this kind of your mental health. They don't see it that way. They think you're fucking nuts and you need to go to loony then. That's what they think. And that's unfortunate. But that's also where she's thinking. But you can't do this discreetly if you can, if possible. Online therapy. But that's also, again, expensive. But again, I think Kalani actually says, kind of going a little ahead here, but Kalani makes it very, very real here. In Samoa, there's one therapist for the whole island of Samoa. One. It's not like the rest of the world or other countries where there's so much readily available to you when it comes to therapy. It's just not the case. But yeah, she goes on to kind of say this. And she does also kind of say she doesn't want to talk about her problems, which again, I think is also very cultural. And TJ, forgot you were here, kind of puts his 2 cents into this, and he says, as a person who is in an Asian country, we don't view therapy the same way. We do think you're crazy if you have to go to therapy. He's not saying he necessarily agrees with that, but he's trying to explain. And he says that, if you need to go to a therapist, he uses a different term, but if you need to go to a therapist, you are seen as being crazy and not necessarily just wanting to get help. So you don't feel quote unquote crazy. So he says, I understand that. This is kind of where Kalani chimes in and says the fact there's one therapist in Samoa is just not something that's normal everywhere. And then Angela says, what do you do then if you need to deal with your mental health? Everyone says nothing. You do nothing. And it's unfortunate. But that is the reality for some countries. You literally do nothing. But she does say, I don't want to be judged. People think she's crazy, blah, blah. And then, we do talk about that. And then Kim, for whatever fucking reason, says, well, she says that trust is the biggest issue. Maybe they need to just get deeper into their relationship. No, ma'am. I understand what you're trying to say, but no, ma'am. That's not it. That's not what they need. The thing is that Lord. The thing is her trust issues don't stem from Brandan. Her trust issues stem from when her mother and her father abandoned her. That's where her trust issues stem in her abandonment issues. That's where her trust is lying. So her getting deeper in her relationship with Brandan is not going to fix anything. She needs the therapy. So Kenny says, I'm just going to say this as a parent. I would put out, she's like, I want to get involved because that's just Angela. I just want to get involved in it. And Tim says, they are not ready to be parents. Too fucking late. They already are. And do we think that I guess he wasn't really clear on who he was talking about, but I think he was kind of saying, I do think that they both decided to have a child so that the other wouldn't leave them. Trapping each other. Sure, it's definitely a possibility. That could have been it. But we'll never really know. We're going to take a break here. We're going to cut Brandan and Mary through the middle here. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to hop into the rest of Brandan and Mary. And we are back. So, I know it's a weird place to stop, but we're back. And let's finish this up. So, we're still with Brandan and Mary. And they end up talking about the whole Wi-Fi situation. With her unplugging it and hanging up on him to go see her friends. And we also talk about the text messages that were sent when he was on his way to the Philippines, if we remember those. And she feels bad about all of it. She says she hates herself. Now that's a really strong thing to say, but I think it's also probably one of the realest things that she has said in this moment. And this kind of goes on to show how much help this girl really does need. Because I understand you feel bad. Bad is good in this situation. But saying you hate yourself, I don't know about that. It's not a good thing to think about when it comes to, yeah. Anyway, so Angela says that she is pissed about this. She then goes on to say, my daughter hates her. Now, I think, okay, Angela's saying she's pissed. Understandable. Everything else that Angela says regarding the situation, not helpful. Not helpful at all. If your daughter hates her, that is your daughter's problem. Because at the end of the day, she doesn't have to like her by any means. She does not need to like Mary. But this is the mother of her niece. So, and her brother's wife. You no longer get to wonder why he likes her, why he stays with her. You don't get to wonder those things anymore. It's no longer your problem. Here's what I'll say. I'm not saying her feelings aren't valid, because Mary has done some egregious things or made him do things that makes absolutely no sense. But this little girl is still under the age of, I think she's probably no more than 17, 18 at this point. She still has a lot of understanding to do. She hasn't lived her life fully yet. She still has a lot to realize. I don't get it either, but it no longer matters. And, let's pretend I have someone who's in a similar situation, who had this kind of relationship. I'm going to worry about you, and I want to make sure you're happy. But at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do about it. You're married, you have a child. There's nothing I can do about it anymore. Going forward, it's your decision. Now, unless there is physical or even verbal or even mental abuse, which we don't know exactly what she's saying, but from what she is saying, she's calmed down a lot. He's even saying she's calmed down a lot. If anything, the verbal abuse is coming from him, not her. So, you know what I mean? I don't care if her daughter doesn't like Mary. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant, honestly, for this situation. Especially when this is something that happened, we're gonna say almost a year ago now. and they're long married. Their daughter's here now. It doesn't matter. But I understand, like, I'm trying to be understanding of the fact that the feelings are valid, but it's very childish for his sister to avoid Mary, or, you know, not want to be in the room when certain things are happening or whatever. That's childish. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's childish. Anyway, Angela goes on to say that, Mary is blocked. I guess her daughter blocked her. Well, guess what? As far as I'm concerned, then, if I was Mary, I would literally say, I'm blocked. You don't want to talk to me? That's okay. Then you don't get to see your niece. I'm sorry. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's harsh. But that's one half of me. And if you don't even want to be cordial with me, at the very least, you don't get to see your niece. You just don't. Sorry. Maybe I'm mean, but I come from a family of, you don't respect me, then you don't need to see my child. Yeah. So she will say, how can he like that bitch? This is what Angela says. This is not helpful. Now, is Mary a little cuckoo-muggoo? Yes. And definitely in the beginning, she definitely was. But I think we can all agree as to why she is the way she is. And that is because of the life she has led before she met Brandan. Now, is it fair to put that onto Brandan? No, it's not. But Mary is still so young that she hasn't lived, really and truly hasn't lived enough life, or have enough of in her mind to say, I should not put my issues onto this current relationship because it's no longer fair to him. You know, we're all guilty of doing it to some degree. So I think like that needs to be understood. Really and truly. So to be calling her a bitch because of something that she did it's counterproductive. It's one thing if she's like straight up a bitch and has no reason to act that way. But I don't want to say she has a reason but she does. Hopefully, fast forward a little bit. Hopefully she does get the help she needs. It can help give her a little bit of insight into why she is the way she is. Although I think she has that insight already. And the tools that she can use to, combat those issues. So Mary says that I was that way because I was insecure with myself. Yeah, it's very true. So we do kind of start talking about, kind of moving off that topic. It's kind of start talking about, Brandan potentially wanting to move back to the States. And, Mary maybe wanting to visit, but not necessarily wanting to live in the States because of her grandma. Her grandma apparently is not doing well, and she wants to stay close to hers, which is understandable as well. But here's what I'm going to say. I don't know if this has always been the case, and that's why he moved to the Philippines. Like, I don't know how long this has been an issue for her grandmother, but if this wasn't an issue before, and it's more of an issue more recently, why didn't you just move to the States before? And instead of, coming to the Philippines, if that was, it's interesting because you're going to go through a lot more now, paperwork and stuff like that to get her there. You're going to have to, your daughter is born in the Philippines, Mary from the Philippines. You're going to have a lot more paperwork. It won't be difficult, I think, I don't believe it will be for his daughter to get, like, if they were to get dual citizenship or anything like that, it won't be too difficult, I don't think. But why didn't you just do that from the beginning? because he clearly was working, making decent money. If he was making like $60,000 a year or so, making decent money, why did you stay in the States? I feel like these two did things very backwards. But anyways, Angela does say that her growth has been amazing. Anyway, that's all. Goodbye, Angela. There's something more we need to talk about. So Angela leaves, we're still talking about what with Mary and Brandan, and Sean ends up asking, like, how is the jealousy situation with you guys? And he says, not really online that much, she is. And then Shekinah. I have a lot I want to unpack with this statement that Shekinah makes, and I'm going to get to it. Shekinah brings up some of Mary's videos, saying that they're a bit provocative. And she kind of, I didn't write this down, but she kind of goes on to say too, like she's kind of shaking her ass and all of this. And Brandan says, like, he can see, the double standard with everything. Then we see some of these videos. Damn, Mary. Don't worry, I have a lot I'm going to unpack. But let's just finish this up. So, Shekinah, again puts her 2 cents in. Mary saying, like, you can do these things, but he can't, like, And Mary kind of claps back, and she, good for her. And she kind of, and this is why I say good for her, and says, okay, but, Sarper controls you, and he's okay with you wearing a dress like that shows off your boobs. It's true. It's true. So here's what I'm going to say before I go any further. I have a few things. Number one, everyone is kind of in the agreement of, which I understand and I agree with as well. It is a double standard for her to be shaking her ass in a provocative way to gain attention from clearly men and women who will be attracted to that. Yet, if Brandan were to do the same similar thing, it would be World War III, 4, 5. Anyways, it would not be great at all. So that's why there is the issue. It's not so much that she's doing the videos. I don't have a problem with her doing the videos. And I feel like most people on that stage don't have an issue with her doing the video. It's the fact that you have this double standard of he can do, but he can't. Okay. But here's what I'm also going to say on top of that, which I'm kind of frustrated no one talked about. But they do talk about it a little later. So maybe technically it does get talked about. It's not in the moment. Shekinah, shut the fuck up. That's what I want to say. If I ever see this bitch on my screen again, I'm going to lose my mind. She is a bitch. It's one thing to put your 2 cents. Like, listen, we had like, what was her name? From B90. Shit, you're all screaming. What's her name? The one who was in England and she had a thing for English girls. What was her name? Yeah, anyways, I can't remember her name. But her. She had a lot of her 2 cents in this thing as well. We always have one who really puts their 2 cents into the show. And all the different things. Like with her, she's talking like with Jasmine and all that. Like that's a way where you still come out looking good, but you had your 2 cents into this, right? Shekinah is not that. Shekinah is a mean girl. That is the problem with her. She's putting her 2 cents in, but at the same time, she's being a bitch about it. And this is kind of what drove me insane with her, because I'm like, you have no leg to stand on. None. Because here you are with a person who can't handle his toxic masculinity, because yes, ma'am, he has toxic masculinity. And you want to talk about Mary and what she's doing. shut the fuck up. You don't have a leg to stand on. And honestly, I don't feel like she kind of brought this up to, shed light on this, double standard that's going on. She brought it up to shame Mary, because all that she's been doing is shaming the women on the stage. You notice she doesn't do that with the men. Something is very wrong with her. I understand Sarper. I don't understand her. It's just, anyway. It really pissed me off. It really did. Brandan does say, listen, she is growing her confidence. So he is, and I quote, supportful. He is supportful of her doing her videos because, and I see what he's trying to say here is the thing, like, listen, I'm okay with it. I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks on the stage. I'm okay with it because it is building her confidence and I want her to build up her confidence. So I'm okay with it. That's great. I love it. Supportful, sir. This is about the 5th time you have said a word incorrectly. I worry for his child. Shit. It's supportive, not supportful. Then Sarper says, I think Mary is a manipulator. Takes one to know one, doesn't it, Sarper? And here's the thing, I don't think Mary is a manipulator. I do think Mary's controlling, but I think she's also trying to self-preserve. And we're going to get to this in a second, because I think we all need to have definitions of what control freak and manipulator means. So we'll get to it in a second when we kind of get to the whole Shekinah Andre Sarper thing. We'll get to it there. But Sarper, again, have a leg to stand on. Because you, sir, are a manipulator based on what the definition of manipulator is. We'll save it in a minute. So, Andre agrees with me and says, and the thing is, I'm going to get to Andre in a minute, along with everything that kind of happened between him and the other two. Because I haven't really talked much about Andre, have I? We haven't had the opportunity yet. It's what my 2 cents in with Andre. I'll get to him in a minute. But he says this. So he says, I guess somehow, some way Sarper hears it, and he says that, I am a control freak, not a manipulator. Okay. Like I said, we're gonna get to it. Andre then goes on to say, it's a toxic relationship. It's true, it is a toxic relationship. Whether or not you two are happy in it, it's still a toxic relationship. That doesn't change anything. Anyway. Sarper says, that's rich coming from you. I'm sorry, what? I guess this is where I'm going to bring it up because it's fitting, I guess, in this moment. Andre is, I love him. I really do. There are moments where I want to wring his neck. But here's what I'm going to say about Andre. I think to some extent, Andre wants to have that kind of patriarchal role in his family. We have seen him say it, where he's like, I'm the head. But you also notice how he says that Libby is the neck. The neck moves the head where it needs to go. But the head makes the final decision, correct? I don't believe Sarper and Shekinah have that type of relationship. I believe Sarper is the head and the neck, and he'll point where he needs to go and he'll make the decision. And Shekinah will follow along like a little fucking puppy. So, here's what I'll say. I fully 110% believe Andre loves and respects his wife. And he will go through hell and heaven to make sure she is fulfilled. Now, where his toxic masculinity comes out is with her family. But I think a lot of us can agree that her family is too fucking involved. Now, there have maybe been moments where like Chuck needed to be a little more involved because, well, fuck, he was paying for their lives, pretty much, up until he finally got a job. Okay? But like her sisters, Charlie, the pottiest potass, his wife, that's a reality guys joke. For those people, they were too fucking involved in their lives. And even when Livy would finally put her foot down and say, enough, even enough where enough was needed, there was Andre or the family. She put her foot down and she would say enough. The biggest thing for him was the family not respecting boundaries. Now, could he be a dick about it? 100%. 100%. 110%. But that's where the issue comes in. So I ask you, Sarper, Shekinah, have you watched this fucking show before? Because if you come out of this thinking that Andre is the only issue in this, you have not been watching correctly. Because Andre is not the only problem in this. He is the loudest problem, but he is not the only problem when it comes to her family. Yeah. And he's been a dick to her too. But I don't worry about Livy. She stands her ground. Shekinah doesn't. But I don't worry about her either because I don't give a shit. But, yeah. Sarper says that I am not manipulative because I am direct. That's not the definition of manipulation. Just because you're direct with it doesn't mean you're not a manipulator. It just means that you're even more of a dick. I don't know what to tell you. Like, what? I'm more direct. What the fuck does that even mean? Anyway, then we go on like a tangent. Everyone is, talking about how shitty Sarper is and how stupid Shekinah is, basically. Everyone's just kind of going in on this. And eventually, Sean... Okay, so before we go into Sean, I believe Sarper, it was Sarper who said this, either Sarper or Shekinah, but I think it was Sarper, says, our love is perfect. Maybe perfect for you, but it's definitely not perfect. And again, no relationship is perfect. None. Every relationship has a crack. Even mine. You know what I mean? No relationship is perfect. You gotta do the work, but whatever. Anyway, so Sean is like, well, we went left here. Let's remind everybody that we're talking about Brandan and Mary. But anyways, we're done with Brandan and Mary, so I'm like, okay, Sean, what was the reason for that? Did something get cut? Anyways. Anyway, we're done with them. We wish them all the best. Yay. Moving on. Then Andre goes and talks to Shekinah because, you called me toxic. Oh, Andre. Oh my God. And he's like, how am I toxic? And Shekinah says, well, why do you, like to challenge women? What are you talking about? Okay, let me continue. So she's like, you're confusing me. Go sit down. Then we're going to finish this up and then I'm going to put my 2 cents into this too. And we're running out of definitions. So then she says he has toxic masculinity. Again, so does your man. But anyways, Kenny says, it wasn't okay for Andre to go, and do that, like go up to her, like you're a man, she's a woman, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, Kenny, I definitely understand where he's coming from with this, but what do you think Andre is going to do? Andre is not going to hurt her, or hit her, or any of those things. He's not going to do any of those things. If she kind of can't hold her own, because she's been really dishing shit, then oh well. You know what I mean? She's been dishing a lot of shit at everybody on stage. And I'm sorry, but my issue with him going up to her has nothing to do with whether or not she can handle herself. If you can't handle it, then don't dish it, you know? So he knows. Okay, Kenny goes on to say, like, he knows he's intimidating. Okay, so again, I don't care. I love Kenny. I don't care if he knows he's intimidating and if Shekinah can handle herself. I don't care. I don't. Anyway, Andre kind of now won't shut up about the whole thing. Okay, so now we're actually in the behind the scenes now. So let me kind of say this. Andre going up to her to confront her on him being called toxic is his way of, like, I don't know what his end goal was here. If he was trying to say, listen, I may be an asshole with her family, but I'm not an asshole with my wife and my kids, you know. I don't know if that was his end goal, but him going up to her, and it'll make no difference, but I feel like it's his way of trying to be like, change your mind, and she's not going to, and she shouldn't have to. If that is her thought, then that's her thought, whatever. But to go back to Shekinah for a minute, when she says, why do you like to challenge women? I'm sorry, what? When has he... Okay. I won't say he has challenged Libby to an extent that makes me feel uncomfortable. He's done some shitty things, but not to a point where I feel uncomfortable for her. Because, again, I don't worry about her. She can hold her own. But then, is she talking about with her family? Because, again, her sisters don't know when to shut up and back off. That's the problem here. Like, it's hard to say him challenge them when they won't shut the fuck up. And trust me when I say this. First of all, number one, her mother deserves to be challenged. She's a bitch. Number two, if you don't know, go Google it. Number two, if anything, the person he has challenged the most out of this family to a really unhealthy place, but again, deserved it, was Charlie. That's the only person. We all remember the fight, right? Like, that's really the only person that I feel like, again, who is another man. So, I don't know what she's talking about. Again, I feel like you two haven't really watched their seasons. I really don't think you have. So, and that's okay if you haven't. Just don't like you did. And so now we're back into the thing. And okay, so at this point, Andre was pissing me off because he wouldn't shut up about the whole thing because he kept talking about it. And Tim says it's just his voice because you're kind of like, you know, whatever. And Tim's like, this is how he is. This is his voice. He's not going to hurt anybody. Thank you, Tim. Like, it's true. He's not going to hurt anybody. He's very boomy in his voice. But I really think Andre is not, he's not above a kitten. Like, honestly. And he only becomes a lion when he needs to. So, yeah, so Tim says that. And then Danielle goes in on Shekinah. Thank you, Danielle. Oh my God. Danielle basically says to Shekinah, listen, you have been going in on everybody on this stage, and we have all taken it. Yet, you can't take responsibility for the things that you have said, or things that are being said to you. Like, what the fuck? And Shekinah says, I have been taking responsibility. And I wrote, this is great. And then Danielle says, give an example. as to when you have taken responsibility. Like, give me an example. And she's like, I kept my composure. That's not an example. That's not an example. Danielle wants a hard ass example as to when you have taken responsibility for anything. And you haven't. So then Kalani says, I get you because I grew up Mormon, which, I guess trying to say there are obviously some similarities between the religion and living Amish, in terms of, things you can and cannot do. And she says, and then what I ended up doing is getting into a relationship with someone who wasn't good for me. Now I'm paying the price for it. And she does get very emotional having the conversation. And she's trying to get through to Shekinah, because I was a little confused by this, but I did eventually understand. Well, she's trying to get through to Shekinah to understand that maybe you're with this guy because, although I think it's even darker for Shekinah than it was for Kalani. I think Kalani was looking for an out. I think Shekinah is a little darker. I think for Shekinah, and I've said this in the first part, was that she is looking for something similar to the life she lived as an Amish person. Maybe. Or something similar to that. So I think it's a little darker. But Kalani's trying to get through to Shekinah in a way that maybe she's like, I'm in a similar situation. Or was in a similar situation. She kind of says that, picking, be living in this type of environment makes you pick the wrong men. And then basically Shekinah's like, I feel like you're putting your issues onto me. No, she's trying to relate to you, bitch. Do you not have friends that are women who are also real? Like, that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to relate to you. And don't sit here and try to act like your friends who are women weren't trying to do the same thing that Kalani's doing in a sense. Your own friends told you he's not good for you. So stop acting like this is news. Your family will fucking talk to you. Curious to know which friends you still have. Eventually I feel like your daughter's gonna say, fuck this shit, I'm done. Because even your daughter has more smarts than you. Like, it's insane. It's insane to me. So, I realize I haven't talked about the definitions yet, but don't worry, it's coming. So, basically, I can't remember who this is, someone says this, but says, the point is that you point your finger at everyone else and not your fucking self, basically. And just, no, I don't. Ma'am, wait a minute. Can we roll the tape to the 20 different times you've pointed your finger at everybody else, and as soon as anyone points a finger at you, you have a fucking problem? Bitch. Anyways, but she's like, I'm gonna leave. So she gets up and she walks away. And again, it just kind of goes to show we are getting under your skin. Because if we weren't telling you the truth, you wouldn't get up and walk away. You fucking can't handle shit, yet you want to dish it. I'm gonna say this loud and clear. Shekinah, fuck you. And get the fuck off my screen. Thank you. I love Sarper. I don't mind saying Sarper. I don't love Sarper. That's the wrong thing to say, but Sarper and his counting is kind of entertaining. But if that means I have to see her, I don't need to see him either. Bye. Anyways, Danielle says, miss you. Danielle, in for the kill. I'm gonna talk about Danielle too, when we get to her, because I have a lot of mixed feelings about everything. So before we talk about Danielle and Yohan, we go back on stage and we are getting ready to kind of talk about them. But Audrey's like, wait a minute, I got something I need to say. these fucking two said I'm toxic. Andre, shut up. And, or said, yeah, I think toxic was the word they used. And honestly, let's be real here. Sarper said it, not Shekinah. But nonetheless, Shekinah's like, oh, he doesn't understand the definition of manipulator. I think she said this here. I can't remember. She did say it, but I can't remember if it was before or now. It's just a, like, I don't think he understands the definition of manipulator. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the definition of control freak and manipulator, because we're real confused. Okay, so control freak, meaning, is a person who feels an obsessive need to exercise control over themselves and others and to take command of any situation. Now, when it comes to my job, I'm a control freak, but I'm very well aware I am, and I try to sometimes relinquish that control. So, that is a definition of control freak. Now, let's do the definition of manipulator. So we have two different definitions. Let's go to it. So number one, the first one, a person who controls or influences others in a clever or unsculptuous way. Kind of like an exploiter is a similarity. Or number two, a person who handles or controls something skillfully. So it's kind of basically trying to say that the person is well fucking aware that they are manipulating for their benefit. So, everybody, do we think Sarper is a manipulator or a control freak? I vote manipulator. And everyone, do we think that Mary is a control freak or a manipulator? I'm going to say control freak, if we're using these terms, because she needs to have control over herself and others, but I don't think she's trying to do this in a way to be cunning by any means. And then we're going to go to Andre for a minute. Do we think he's a control freak or a manipulator? I will say he has toxic masculinity, yes, when it comes to certain situations. But I do not think he is a manipulator or a control freak. I don't. I just don't. Anyway, that's her definition. That's her definitions with me. Moving on. So let's talk about Danielle and Yohan. We bring on this girl named Memory. Y'all, that is not her name. That is not her fucking name. Anyways, sounds like a porn star name. Anyways, Memory. So, Memory tells us how she started talking to Yohan. He slid into her DMs and he was telling her to go to the DR. So she was saying how her and some of her mom friends were going to be going. She has kids. Was going to be going on a trip. And she mentions like this to him. And he says, no. Come by yourself. I'll show you around. Fuck's sakes. This fucking guy. Anyway, he told her that he was going through a divorce. And that she was going to be trying to take him for everything that he's worth. You feel fucking worth shit, sir. Anyways. So when they ask him, Yohan, do you remember her? He says, no, I don't remember her. Lord Jesus. He wants her to show the receipts. Okay. She literally starts reading text messages on the screen of the different things that he says. So basically everything she just said, she actually read the messages that were said to her from him. And apparently, here's what I'm going to say, and I pinpointed this because, ladies, we all get this. He apparently asks her for a picture of herself. Ladies, when a man asks you for a picture of you, You know what their intention is. Now, I've been out of the game for a little while, but I remember being asked from all the men to send them a picture of myself. You send them like a face picture, and then they'd be like, okay, show me the body picture. You know, we all know where this leads to. There is intention here. He has intention here to have something with her, right? As soon as and even the straight men on the stage are like, oh shit, he asked for a picture. You know what I mean? So, he says he still doesn't remember her. He kind of wants her to show the phone, show the messages. And Kalani's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. She literally fucking read the messages. Shut the fuck up. Danielle says, you know what? I believe he doesn't remember. But I have a question for you, Yohan. Is it because you have too many women to remember? And I think someone on the stage, whether it was Danielle or both Danielle and Tanya, I can't remember who, but they say like, bitches. Can we stop with that? Now, bitches are only given to those people who fully fucking know he's in a relationship or married or whatever the case may be. And that one woman who sent her messages on the show fucking knew, okay? She's a bitch. My memory didn't know. And I'm sure a lot of these women didn't know. Most of them didn't know. So, y'all bitches. Her client? See, her client's a different situation. We'll get to her. But it's stop using the term bitches for all of them. Just say women. It's not hard. Fuck. Anyways. So, yeah, she says, like, is it because there's just too many that you just don't remember? He then says, if she was important, I would remember her. That is the only true thing he says in this moment. I believe she wasn't important enough for him. I do believe that for many reasons. But this is also the only time he tells the truth because, sir, you continue to lie and lie and lie and lie your way through this. As if that was the only time you didn't lie. Let's continue. So now Memory found out, or how she found out, that he was actually married was basically when Danielle started adding all of the women, as we found out earlier. And she kind of was like, oh, is this about Yohan? And she basically at that point decided, I'm not going to continue talking to him because she doesn't talk to married men. Good for you. Then Tim apologizes to Danielle for talking shit about her. I'm going to finish what happens here. I do understand Tim here, but I'm going to finish what happens with all of this and give my 2 cents on Danielle at the end. This whole situation at the end. So then we go back, to the tail end drama where Yohan basically says, here that he doesn't see her as a partner anymore, that he should respect anyways. And then, we found out that he kind of, the timeline kind of aligns with that. But I'm confused by this because didn't the woman that we first found out about say that she started having sex with him, or she started seeing him anyways, 2 years ago, and they had barely been married 2 years ago? I'm very confused, but anyways, let's continue. Then we start finding out about, this client of Danielle's, that Yohan kind of got involved with. He, apparently picked her up when, picked up the client in a van. Ew. And then, anyways, yeah, sorry. Very confused here. There's so much that happens. But yes, he picked her up in this van. The client. He says, no, it's not true. There's no proof. And Danielle says, honey, did you think I would say any of these things without proof? My girl has the fucking email from the client telling her everything that happened. So, basically, she reads some of the email to us. He basically wanted the client to, so he went to her tent. This is in the email. Went to her tent, this client's tent, told her, like, come with me, leave with me, to be alone. And I guess she did. And one thing kind of led to another. Full disclosure here, Danielle does believe something did happen physically. Danielle doesn't say why she thinks that. I don't know if it's in the email. She doesn't read that. I'm not sure. But she does believe like something physical did happen between them. Anyway, Danielle kind of knew there was something kind of going on, and basically kind of confronts the client saying, can you please remove my husband's number out of your phone? This is making me very uncomfortable. And when the client goes back to Yohan, which I don't fucking understand why she did that. Women, please, when a woman tells you to stop talking to her man, fucking stop talking to her man and end it. You don't need to go to him. There's nothing you need to say to him. Because the don't talk to my man started when I told you that. Not then you go to him and tell him. Anyways, so she goes and she tells him what Danielle said. He got mad because he's like, you're making her control you. When it comes to you, sir, yeah. Funny. Anyways, so like I said, Danielle is convinced that something physical did happen, some sort of physical relationship happened between them. He says he never went, with any of the women at the retreat. He then says I went there to help you, blah, blah, blah. And he says to her at this point, go to hell with your lies. And that, you want me to be bad, I'll be bad to you. Sir, you've done it. You've done it. What are you talking about? You want to talk about toxic masculinity? Here it is. The fuck? Narcissist is what it is. He thinks he can get away with the shit. It's like clear as the day. You cheated on her. Sorry. Anyway. So, then Armando starts telling him, you are playing the victim. Yes, he is 100%. And then, he says, I wasn't unfaithful, but I should have been unfaithful, is what Yohan says. Again, there's certain things you can keep to yourself, and this is one of those things. If that's how you feel, fine. But you gotta fucking tell her that. And Tim is so shocked at this point. He's like, that is still his wife, and that was his wife. Like, why would he say these things to her? Because he never gave a shit about her, Tim. This is the thing. This man was with her with the intention of moving to the States. So when that didn't happen, he didn't care anymore. This man never loved her. Never loved her. This man tattooed a $sign on his body. When the $sign is not something that is seen in the Dominican Republic. They have pesos. Hello. Man never loved her. Ever. So, let me continue because I do have more thoughts to say about this whole thing. So, she tells him he is mad because she outed him 100%. He doesn't care about anything else. He cares that his reputation has now tarnished. He says that she is a manipulator. That is true. That is true. Let's continue. So, Sean must have asked him about, I don't know, 1,000,000 times whether or not he did cheat on her. And every time he says no, he never did. Whatever. She says, I intentionally kept the evidence of your cheating because everyone thinks that I'm the problem. So in order for me, and this is where the issue is, but I mean, to name me one woman, if she didn't have the opportunity, would publicly out their person who cheated on them. I'm just saying. She says the reason I kept this evidence is so that I would have been believed. Because otherwise I probably wouldn't have been believed. And I'm going to go on that. I'm going to elaborate on that in a minute. I just want to finish this up with them. So, but I wrote here, it's okay. No one believes him. Right? I'm going to say this at least. I have seen, I'm not going to say where, but I have seen and heard people say they don't believe her, that they don't believe he cheated on her. I want to ask, why don't we believe this? Because, is it because of her? Because that she's now clouding, your hatred for her is clouding your judgment. Two things can be the same. She can be a manipulator and a bitch, but he can also be a cheater in the worst degree. I really do think so. And just because there's definitely this possibility that she has controlled his life in a lot of aspects, doesn't mean that he doesn't have the capability to cheat on her. Come on. Really. I had such a problem with that because I'm thinking, so are we just not believing her because we don't like her? Because that's not enough. I said this before, and I'll say it again. I 110% believe Danielle got cheated on by him in the worst possible way. I believe it. Does that mean that I like her? Not a lot. Not necessarily. There are certain points where I'm like, yes, Danielle. But am I excited to see her on my screen? No, I'm not. And I'll get to more. But it's just, stop letting your hatred for a person or your dislike for a person cloud your judgment. Yohan's been showing his ass since the last season they were in. So, he wishes that he had all of the money in the world in order to divorce her. Fuck you. You don't get the power to divorce her. She should divorce you. You don't get that. I'm sorry, you just don't. She says that she will be filing for divorce. Good for her. And they tell her, like the group, everyone on stage basically tells her, please stop talking to him. Stop being his friend. I understand the whole family situation. I went through that as well, with my ex. I mean, I could have continued a friendship if I wanted with his sister, because we were very close. But there were other situations that had nothing to do with him, but I don't talk to her anymore. But it is okay to let that go. I know it's hard. I get it. But the relationship has now ended. Say your goodbyes to his family if that's what you need to do. And be done with it. He doesn't deserve that power over you anymore. So before I finish this up, I'm going to talk about this and how I feel about it. I think I've made it very clear I believe her over him. But here's what I'm also going to say. Like I said, he's been showing his ass from the last season, but I really truly think he's been showing his ass from the very beginning. Really. Testing shit and everything. Testing the boundaries and whatnot. But I think, and I don't think this will ever happen, but I think Danielle needs to learn a lesson here. Just like with Darcy, although she does marry Georgie, she was given a very valuable lesson. You gotta stop chasing after these young European men and think that you're gonna get a different result. You're not gonna get a different result. Now, she married Georgie, but anyways. Same with Danielle. You gotta stop chasing after these young black men and think that you're going to get a different result. You're not. You're going to get the same fucking result every single fucking time. And I think Yohan was the most painful but valuable lesson into that. Now, do I think Danielle's going to change? No. Do you have the type? It's kind of hard to break that type. I get it. But nothing will change. You're going after young men thinking you're going to get a valuable relationship out of it, and you're not. These men, most of them, probably want to have kids. Probably want to go through that the easy way as well. Quote unquote, the easy way. And they're know right off the bat they're not going to have that with you. So I think you need to leave these young guys alone and find someone who is closer in age with you. Doesn't necessarily have to be, she's early 40s, she's young. She can find a young, vibrant black man who is in his 40s. Hello, Idris Elba, anybody? I think he's older than 40s, but damn, I'm just saying. You can find what you're looking for without potentially hurting yourself along the way. In so many ways, Danielle kind of did this to herself by picking him and expecting a different result. Now, I'm not saying she caused the cheating, that's on him. But you gotta kind of be your advocate from the very beginning and pick the right guy. Don't pick a guy who wants to give you lip service, who you think is going to be different. It's not going to happen. That's what I'm going to say on her. I'm, again, not saying that she's my favorite person. There is some shitty shit that happened, especially last season. So stupid. Maybe we could have avoided the whole Talon situation. Because again, Danielle, if you're listening, men don't like that shit. They just don't. I'm not saying it's okay, but they just don't like that shit. But, I don't like either of them. I hate him more. I think he's disgusting. And yeah, but we will definitely see Danielle in the single life, let's be real here. She will be in the single life, where this is not the last of her. Anyways. But that is the end of the tell-all. That's it. So we're gonna get, some thoughts and shit on these from everybody. So Brandan says, about Mary, her controlling nature hasn't really stopped. Not great. Mary says that she does intend to go to therapy. I don't know if that actually does happen. If she will do that, I don't know. But we'll see. She just leaves. She has nothing to say. She doesn't care. She's like, these people, I know these people hate me. I don't really care. Good, go, bye. Fuck you, bitch. Anyways, I hate her. I'm sorry. She says she doesn't give a shit about these people. doesn't care if they hate her, like I said. And she, I think, judges the women for crying, because she kind of says, like, you know, all of these women, like, were crying, and I think they felt like I should cry, and I'm like, what? Maybe you should cry once in a while. Maybe it'll make you a little more human. Fuck. Maybe she can't cry. Anyways. So, Holly goes to talk to Danielle. This is kind of when they saw Shekinah just leave. No, sorry. That was when she was talking to Kimberly. Anyways. She goes to talk to Danielle. And she says, you know, he just gaslit you. And it's very true. He definitely did. Danielle leaves. She says, bye, New York. And she's gone. Holly then says that, you know, I did say I want to go back to South Africa. That was real. But, like, I don't want to go back to South Africa without, like, us being good. Because, like, we weren't talking for 3 weeks. So, you're going to backpedal. You literally told this man that you want to go back home to him. But then you're going to say you don't want to go back because you need to be good. He literally said you need to work on shit. Maybe, oh my god, maybe the best way to work on shit is to actually be in front of each other in the same fucking time zone and actually be able to have a conversation. Amazing. Jesus. Anyways. Then I see, I don't know if anyone else got this. Holly walks outside in her fucking slippers. What the fuck? And it's raining. You trying to tell me you could put shoes on? Jesus. Fucking Christ. Anyways. She's gone. Oh yeah, the slippers were white too. She's gone. Let's move on. Bye, Julio. I don't care. I'm not saying a fucking shit about him. He's gone. Hopefully forever. Moving on. Kenny and Armando are lovely. What more do I need to say? He says because we didn't actually hear from Armando, we heard from only Kenny. And he says they definitely have some decisions that need to be made, but they are good. And then he goes outside and he says, rain means good luck. Then he's gone. He's left us. Kimberly kind of, you know, talks about the whole Jenny situation and how she made threats and thought that it was childish of her, which I don't disagree with, but I also don't like that you called her the see you next Tuesday. But anyways, yeah, so she felt like it was childish. She's like, I'm not afraid of a fight. Okay. She says she loves TJ, but she, has to put herself first. And she says that she will not be going back to India right now for at least 4 months. Does he know that? That's a long... I'm not saying she didn't have time with her family, but that's a long time. It's a really long time. Anyways, she doesn't know if she can count him in her future plans. He's your husband. Shouldn't he not be in your future? If you don't want to live in India, then talk to him about that. If he then decides he really truly has no intention of moving away from home, then you know what you gotta do. Stop wasting your time and his time. Just move on. Anyway, that is the end of The Other Way. That is the end of the season. Of course, you guys are getting this at least like 3 weeks after the fact, but I had a lot of fun with this season for the most part. There were some things that drove me nuts. But this was a really good season, I will admit. And I hope they continue this, like these quick little hour bite-sized toe episodes I think they used to do before. I really enjoyed it. People who I don't want to see ever again. Sarper and Shekinah. And Kimberly and DJ. But pretty sure we will probably see them again, honestly. I don't know if I can see Brandan and Mary again either. I don't know if I can do that again. Obviously, Danielle and Yohan are gone now. She's gonna have a single life, let's be real here. And who else was there? Oh, Julio and Kirsten. I loved Kirsten, but she's not made for this. And I never want to see him again. So there's that. So I think that's basically it for the show. Yeah, that's it.